In 2023, I had $0 invested. 3 years later, I now have a net worth of around $75,000, man. And if I had to start over from zero, here's what I would do. And I really want to make this video because when I started, man, I was jumping from one investment to another. I was watching thousands of videos, reading thousands of things on Reddit, and just not really feeling confident in what I was actually starting to invest into. And I always thought maybe this strategy is better, or maybe they got a point, or I'm scared of losing money here and this and that. None of this is financial advice. This is just what I would personally do starting from zero. First thing you got to do is see how much money you're bringing in monthly, man, and then subtract your expenses. And then with whatever money you have left, you really got to utilize this to the best of your capabilities. And this really depending on your situation, man. I was fortunate enough to be living with my parents, so my bills weren't as high as other people. But look, this is what you really got to do. When you're first starting out, focus on cutting back expenses and having a little bit of extra money every single month to play with. Now, personally, you can do this by eating at home more, getting roommates, cutting back on some expenses, or going for cheaper alternatives and cutting out some fun, man. And this kind of sucks, but it is what it is, and we got to do what we got to do to make it happen, you know? After this, I'm just going to touch on this quick because nobody's going to want to do this, but make a saving account and try to save up at least 1 month of your expenses, and that's different for everybody, but have an emergency fund to fall back on. Now, to actually get started with investing, first, utilize your 401k if you have an employer that gives you a match, because that's already a 100% return on your money, man. Just allocate enough to try to get as much of that match as you can, and then open up a Roth IRA and open up a traditional brokerage account. And most of the time for me, I'll be contributing to that Roth because when you cash out at 59.5, you don't got to pay any taxes. There's a couple routes that you can take when it actually comes into investing the money. You could either go a little bit risky and try to pick some stocks. I personally would not do this. I would go straight into either VOO, which is the S&P 500 ETF, and it doesn't have to be VOO. It can be another company or whatever you like, but I would do something that tracks the S&P 500, and I would do about 80% into that. Then I would take 10% of that and go into a small cap and like AVUV, 10% of that, or maybe even 10 to 15% of that into AVUV. And then the last 10 or 5%, depending on what strategy you're kind of choosing to do, I would do international, which I would do VXUS, which is Vanguard's international. And I would just keep contributing into that and letting that build up, contributing a little bit more if I'm able to when there's a little bit of a downturn in the market. And I would just be okay with writing that out until retirement, or writing that out until maybe I want to buy a house, or whatever you want to do with that money, man, you know? But this is another approach that I personally do more of, and it's just a one fund portfolio. So I only have one ETF, and if it had to be one, it would be VT, which is Vanguard Total World ETF, which has international and has domestic. Some people don't like this because there is a bigger percentage that you're invested into international, which, you know, it hasn't always performed the best, but man, you don't got to worry about changing the percentages into each allocation. All you got to do is put money in there and wait. And that's what it really has come down to, man. Starting, feeling confident, and not getting too risky. Of course, once you have your emergency fund built up, once you have a little bit of money that you want to like take a gamble with, that you're okay with losing, go do your research and invest into something that could potentially give you a freaking insane return. Definitely do that. But from starting from zero and building confidence in the market, I would do either one of these strategies. And now, these aren't going to be the best strategies out there, man, but these strategies built my confidence in investing and took me from $0 to a $75,000 net worth. And that is a freaking blessing in itself. You might want to go a different route, and that's okay, man. Do your research and just get started. Starting is by far the best thing, especially if you're young, especially if you're just wasting money on some other nonsense like how I have on some CSGO skins. You know what I'm saying? But it's fun, and we got to enjoy life. You know what I mean? But That's what I would personally do if I was starting from zero in 2026. Now, there's a lot of different factors that could definitely come into play, and a lot of different things that you may have to adjust or adapt with, because there's AI coming into the picture, there's crypto, and all of these different things. But for me, it's building up that emergency fund and starting like your foundation. And the foundation is built up on the US companies and a little bit of international. That's a beautiful foundation, man, because at the end of the day, if those things go to zero, then we got bigger issues probably, right? Now, after that foundation is set up and you're contributing consistently into that, then you can go into more speculative plays, whether it's crypto, CSGO skins, freaking Pokemon cards, or what else is there, freaking a stock pick or whatever it may be. Then you can branch out into those to potentially get a crazy return. But right now, the main focus is to build that foundation and to see what being in the market is really like. Because there will be those months where you're down money, man, and you're going to want to sell. But don't sell. And you might take some losses, especially if you try going risky. But stay consistent, stay disciplined, and continue investing. After you're getting that foundation built up, another thing that will benefit you greatly is to get a little bit of a higher income or secondary income. One thing you can do is realize where you're working, man. I was working at a freaking fast food restaurant. I was working Carl's Jr., right? I'm making, I think, $15 an hour. And then my friend told me, hey, bro, why don't you just get your guard card and like you'll be making like $21. So I paid like $150. I got my guard card and I started literally the next week at a security company making $21. So just by applying myself a little bit, getting some things done, I got a $6 raise. And that job actually offered me a good amount of overtime, and it helped me. Well, at the time, I wasn't really financially responsible, so I was just wasting that money. But I'm just giving you guys an example on how you can increase your earnings. And it doesn't have to be nothing crazy like becoming a freaking software engineer and all these different things. Hey, if you're on that path, though, go get that money, man. You know what I mean? But you can do that. Or you can pick up a part-time position at another job. And this will sacrifice a lot of your time. And not all of us want to do that. And not all of us are able to do that. But this is something that I did working full-time at the factory. I picked up a part-time position delivering packages for Amazon, man. And that is pretty labor-intensive. It's not the best route, but it definitely offered me the opportunity to be able to save and invest that much more each month. Because I was bringing in around like $3,000 from the factory full time, and then I was bringing in an extra like $1,500 to $2,000 from the Amazon part-time position. Because this was during the seasonal time, so we were getting offered a lot of overtime, and there was a bunch of freaking packages, man. But it gave me that opportunity to freaking save and invest a little bit more. And sometimes we got to make these sacrifices. But starting from zero, just build the foundation, man. Build the confidence in investing, and you will see what investing creates, man. And it's a freaking beautiful thing to experience and see. But it will get rough, and it's not always going to be perfect. And for some of us, it will be easier. For some of us, it will be harder. But you just got to get started, and you got to stay consistent. I'll see you guys on the next one.